Hey, what's up you guys? So this video, it's going to be covering not so much like any like frame tactics itself or like understanding frame data per se. It's more so understanding, or I guess it is kind of gonna delve into that, but it's more so understanding the difference between like actually knowing the frames, like actually understanding frame data, and then also seeing how it actually takes effect visually, like in the game itself. Um, so it's not, if that doesn't make sense, you'll see exactly what I'm getting at in just a couple of minutes. But the main reason why I'm doing this, one is because like a couple of people have asked me about this, or it's like they express a distaste for like MK11, you know, or even in Injustice 2 because of these things that behave this way, which I completely understand. Like it makes sense, but whether or not it's really to blame NRS per se. This is more so something to just understand with frames as a whole and like game animation and just fighting games in general. Or maybe even all games in general. I'm not sure if other games actually have this just because I never really put in as much time like I have with fighting games, you know? So the main core example is really just what the frames actually are. Like this is what the whole video is going to cover. It's covering what the frames actually are, what the frame values actually are, you know, like the frame data itself, versus what is visually being shown in the game. So like Canary, for example, if you see me do a backflip and a front flip, you see I could do this stuff, right? The main big portion of this is really just the deception aspect of it, right? So you see I flip forward and she's doing that and I can flip back, right? But look at when she crouches when I flip forward. You see she's not fully standing. Like when she does this full thing, she just stands and then she's normal, right? But the thing is, you can see how she almost immediately ducks as she flips forward, and that's what leads to a lot of deception in general. Like when you do stuff like this, you see how she looks like she's almost just attacking right out of this. See, just like that. It's like she's attacking just right out of the flip. This itself is exactly what I'm getting at. Or like somebody like with Wonder Woman, you know, like you see me do the sweep, she does a full sweep and she comes back into her animation, right? Does a sweep, her leg comes back, right? But look, if I stand up, you see how fast she rises, right? Or if I do my jab, you see she does a jab forward, the sword comes back down, right? Her arm retracts back, right? And she's doing this. But look how fast she can stand up. See, the sword doesn't even touch the ground at this point. See, it does that and then the sword touches the ground back again. Or like when she does this. See, she hits them, the sword comes back down. But look, she can stand almost immediately. And same thing with the sweep. You see, it's like you wait for the initial thing to come all the way back, right? You whiff it, wait for it to come all the way back. But the recovery is actually right there. That's when the recovery actually ends. And that's what this whole thing is covering itself. You know, no pun intended. So it's not so much specifically the recovery per se, just because this kind of stuff happens on block 2. It's really just to illustrate and just to really break down that you have to pay attention to what the frames actually are. Certain things you can depend on in the game, and the whole reason why this is even being brought up, or why even talking about this in general, is one, because like the wake up system in MK11, which that itself, it is bad just to begin with. It is bad. That's just, you know, unanimous, more or less. But it's also a lot of moves in MK11 tend to have this property also, like what I just displayed over here. At least to my knowledge, in Injustice 2, this isn't very common. Like certain characters have these here and there, you know, like these kinds of moves, but for the most part, it doesn't behave this way. Oh, excuse me. But in MK11, a lot of moves behave this way. So that itself just throws things off so much. So basically what I'm getting at is, let's just pretend that these numbers are true. Let's make pretend that these numbers are accurate. Her sweep, you see her down 3? It has 23 frames of recovery, right? So what that means is that after that kick is done, like the active frames, they finish, then she's in 23 frames of recovery, right? Those 23 frames from that kick extending up until she's rising back up, that's those 23 frames right there. Like let's just say that these are the exact numbers. I'm not sure if these are real or not. Like these numbers are accurate. I don't know. But let's just say that we're going by it. Right here, this is those 23 frames. That's the 23 frames of recovery from that move. Her going into this entire sweep back, like her taking her leg back, yes, it's technically taking longer than 23 because as you can see, she does a kick and then she stands immediately. Versus this, she does a kick and her leg is going all the way back. Technically, it is taking more frames to do that, but it taking more frames, that itself is not changing the recovery. The recovery is still 23, that's why she's rising immediately. This is when the recovery ends, right as she's rising back up, right? Just so you can see it more visually, you know, like easily. Her rising back up, that's when the recovery ends. So whatever the character is doing past that, like on their own, like on their base design, that's just more just for like the appeal of the game. Just because it would look weird if her leg just stopped abruptly and she just gets back up initially, right? Like that would just look a little strange. Just imagine it more so cinematically, like it would just look weird, you know? Versus with this, she does a sweep and now it comes back into its original position. Just like with the jab. She does a jab, her arm retracts back, right? Elbow comes back, sword drops back down onto the ground. Right? It's more so just for the, like a more graceful flow. That's really just like the best way to phrase it. That's really all that there is to it. And same thing with like Canary. You know, like when she's flipping forward. The characters, they have these kinds of animations. It's just for it to make it look like an actual movement. Like again with this, the sweep for it to come all the way back. She just stuck out her leg, now she's bringing it back. It's more so just to show the cycle of it. But the cycle of it, the cinematic, I don't know if it's the cinematic of it or cinematography of it or the animation of it itself. All of those things, it doesn't necessarily matter, not really. What truly matters is really just the frames, you know? Or like I'll have Canary block really quickly. You see how she pulls out her shield? No, not she pulls out her shield. You see how she sticks out her sword and then brings it back? Look at her do it again. See how she takes up the sword and brings it back? That's just a part of the animation. I'm not really sure why they chose to do that, but that's just a part of the animation. Because if you look at this, you see I can stop that sword draw altogether. Because that's just a part of the animation of the move as a whole, but it's not attached to what the recovery actually is, if that makes sense. I mean, hopefully that makes sense, just given all the examples that I've shown. But it's the same thing like with this again. Does a full sweep, right? Then she takes her leg back. This whole thing itself, though, it's not a part of the recovery. It's not a part of the actual recovery of the character. The recovery is those 23 frames, like what was shown before. And that's when the 23 frames end, right there. And now jumping into MK11, just to show the same exact thing. So for Scarlet, I'm not really sure if she has this as much. I was just testing this briefly. But you see how she does the full scythe, right? And then the scythe comes forward again, and then the blood kind of like splatters. You see like right in front of her face. But you see how it's like she's still swinging her arms around a bit, right? But you see when I hold block, she can stop it right there. Because that itself, that moment where she's blocking, that's when the recovery actually finishes. That's what the frame data itself is displaying. Everything else that she does outside of that, like let's say if she wasn't blocking, that's not tied to the recovery of the move. That's really just a playback of the animation of the move itself. But it'll be easier to show you with Cetrion. What was it, her down 4, right? See her down 4, how she does a kick, same thing like Wonder Woman, similarly. She does a kick and then she brings it back, right? Does a kick, brings it back, but look at how fast she can block. You see? This right here, when she blocks, that's when the recovery is over. Not when she brings her leg all the way back. It's right there in that moment. Right as the leg is coming back, that's when she can go into blocking. So you see, it looks like you're like machine gunning it, which you kind of are, but you're not technically stopping the move. You're not like cutting the animation or anything like that. Like that full sequence itself, that's really just a playback of the move. But where the recovery actually ends, that's when the move technically really stops, and that's when you can actually start doing something else all over again. I'm not going to go into the details of the wake-up system or showing what other characters have, just because, again, I don't play this game. I'm literally only using this just for an example. Just because, well, like the previous videos was just because frame data is displayed, you know, so it's very easy to teach frame data with this. But past that, it's like I literally haven't touched this game. I don't know much about it. Like, I've kept up with with the patch changes just to see how things are progressing, to see whether it's worth investing again. It's not, you know. But if you guys want to see how to test this, just do a move and just let it play out. Like if it's a down animation move, like with a down input, like down 1, down 2, down 3, down 4, if it's something like that, just keep the character crouching so that they'll stay in that kind of animation. And then just see how it plays out. Do that a couple of times so you can see the full thing, and then just hold block just to see when it actually cuts off. That's the true recovery. Like that itself, that's where the recovery actually ends. And if it's with a standing thing, then just let them do their thing standing, you know? Just don't do anything, just let them do it. And then after you see how it looks like a couple of times, then just hold block and see how things change. See, with her, she actually just recovers so fast. See, this looks almost instant. So that's like something else that you can kind of see, because it's like she's twisting her body and then her torso twists back to normal, right? So it kind of makes you assume, oh, that's when she goes back to normal, you know, because her torso is back in its original form. No, that's not the case. As you can see, that's not the case at all. That's just a playback of the move itself. The recovery actually ends right there. Right there, right when she starts blocking. It's just an inside joke though, right there. But right where she starts blocking, that itself, that's when the recovery actually truly ends. So that's really all that I'm just trying to explain. And I hope that it made sense, and that's why I'm putting up so many different examples, is because I'm pretty sure this occurs in other games as well. I'm not sure if this occurs in other fighting games, but it is somewhat notorious when it comes to NRS games. But I've noticed with a lot of posts, because it floods my timeline, and also like within like my own circle of friends and people that I talk to, they do complain about this as well. And when I try explaining it to people, they don't really get it. So I'm hoping that this video will help clarify that. Like everything, I literally can't stress this enough, literally everything always roots back down to frame data. Like if you know the frame data, then everything just makes sense. You know, like if you have an understanding of it. When you don't, that's what leads to a bunch of confusion. So yeah, I mean, I hope that this is of use. Please leave comments, ask questions. I'll try to get to them and everything, you know. And I'll try to put out more content, but if it is more content, it's probably just going to be Injustice 2 related. You know, like I just keep on uploading sets and stuff like that. Just because you literally can't bribe me to play MK11. Like, I just wouldn't play it. I would play it maybe for like $5 million or something, but past that, no. I'm not even purchasing the story mode. Like, it's not tempting to me at all. Like, the game itself is $60, and they're gonna charge you slightly less than the full price of the game to not even get double the game. You know, like, that's crazy. But you know, like, that's another topic for another day. But yep, that's basically it for this video. And again, I hope that this was of use. And I hope you guys have a good day or night. Take care and stay safe.